Welcome. Today we will be going over Metasploit Meterpreter. Take a deep dive into Meterpreter and see how in-memory payloads can be used for post-exploitation. Meterpreter is a Metasploit payload that supports the penetration testing process with many valuable components. Meterpreter will run on the target system and act as an agent within a command and controls architectures. You will interact with the target operating system and files and use Meterpreter specialized commands. Meterpreter has many versions which will provide different functionalities based on the target system. How does Meterpreter work? Meterpreter runs on the target system but is not installed on it. It runs in memory and does not write itself to the disk on the target. The feature aims to avoid being detected during antivirus scans. By default, most antivirus software will scan new files on the disk. Example, when you download a file from the internet. Meterpreter runs in memory and RAM. RAM is random access memory to avoid having a file that has to be written to the disk on the target system. Example, Meterpreter executable. This way, Meterpreter will be seen as a process and not have a file on the target system. Meterpreter also aims to avoid being detected by network-based IPS intrusion prevention system and IDS intrusion detection system solutions by using encrypted communications with the server where Metasploit runs, typically your attacking machine. If the target organization does not decrypt and inspect encrypted traffic, for example, HTTPS, coming to and going out of the local network, IPS and IDS solutions will not be able to detect its activities. While Meterpreter is recognized by major antivirus software, this feature provides some degree of stealth. The example below shows a target window machine exploited using the MS17-010 vulnerability. You will see Meterpreter is running with a process ID PID of 1304. This PID will be different in your case. We have used the get PID command, which returns the process ID with which Meterpreter is running. The process ID or process identifier is used by the operating system to identify running processes. All processes running in Linux or Windows will have a unique ID number. This number is used to interact with the process when the need arises. Example, if it needs to be stopped. Now, if we look here, we have the get PID command and the current PID, which is 1304. If we list processes running on the target system using the PS command, we see PID 1304 is spool sv.executable and not Meterpreter executable as one might expect. And we have 1304. So if you look at 1304, is running, and as they claimed, is running spool SV and not Meterpreter. Even if we go to a step further and look at DLL dynamic link libraries used by Meterpreter process PID 1304 in this case, we still would not find anything jumping at us. Example, no Meterpreter DDL. And if we take a look here, there is no Meterpreter DDL. Techniques and tools that can be used to detect Meterpreter are beyond the scope of this room. This section aimed to show you how stealthy Meterpreter is running. Remember, most antivirus software will detect it. It is also worth noting that Meterpreter will establish an encrypted TLS communication channel with the attacker system. Task 2. Meterpreter Flavors. As discussed in the previous Metasploit rooms, linked below, Metasploit payload can be initially divided into two categories: inline, also called singled, and staged. And if we see here, you go check out the introduction to Metasploit and scanning and exploitation with Metasploit. As you will remember, staged payloads are sent to the targets in two steps. An initial part is install the stager and request the rest of the payload. This allows for a small initial payload size. The inline payloads are sent in a single step. Meterpreter payloads are also divided into stage and inline versions. However, Meterpreter has a wide range of different versions you can choose from based on your target system. The easiest way to have an idea about available Meterpreter versions could be to list them using MSF Venom as seen below. We have used the MSF Venom list payload command and grep Meterpreter payloads, adding a pipe grep Meterpreter to the command line, so the output only shows these. You can try these commands on the attack box. So as we see here, they ran MSF Venom to list the payload and then grep Meterpreter. And here we have a list of the versions, as you can see. The list will show Meterpreter versions available for the following platforms. So we have Android, Apple, Java, Linux, OS X, PHP, Python, and Windows. Your decision on which version of Meterpreter to use will be mostly based on three factors. The target operating system. Is the target operating system Linux or Windows? Is it a Mac device or is it an Android phone, etc.? Components available on the target system. Is Python installed? Is this a PHP website, etc.? Network connection types. You can have with the target system. Do they allow raw TCP connections? Can you only have an HTTPS reverse connection? Are IPv6 address not as closely monitored as IPv4 addresses, etc.? If you are not using Meterpreter as a standalone payload generated by MSF Venom, your choice may be also limited by the exploit. You will notice some exploits will have a default Meterpreter payload, as you can see in the example below with the MS17_010 Eternal Blue exploit. And as you can see here, we launched to use the Eternal Blue exploit, and it is configured with the payload of reverse TCP Meterpreter. You can list other available payloads using the show payload commands with any module. So once we have Eternal Blue, you type show payloads, and here it gives you compatible payloads that you could choose. Okay, so now we'll go to task 3, Meterpreter Commands. Type in help on any Meterpreter session shown by Meterpreter at the prompt will list all available commands. So we see here, we type in help, and it gives us the available commands. Every version of Meterpreter will have different command options, so running the help command is always a good idea. Commands are built tools available on Meterpreter that will run on the target system without loading any additional scripts or executable files. Meterpreter will provide you with 3 primary categories of tools, that is built-in commands, Meterpreter tools, and Meterpreter scripting. If you run the help command, you will see Meterpreter commands are listed under different categories. These categories are core commands, file system commands, networking commands, system commands, user interface command, web commands, audio output commands, elevate commands, password database commands, and time-stamped commands. Please note that the list above was taken from the output of the help command on the Windows version of Meterpreter. And here's the path. These will be different on other Meterpreter versions. So right here we have core commands, and they will be helpful to navigate and interact with the target system. Below are some of the most commonly used. Remember to check all available commands running the help command once a Meterpreter session has started. And we have a list of our core commands, and we have background, exit, UUID, help, info, IRB, load, migrate, run, and sessions. The file system commands, cd, ls, pwd, that's to print the current work directory, edit, cat will show contents of a file to the screen, remove, search, upload, and download. Now we move along, we have the networking commands, ARP, that displays the host address resolution protocol cache, ifconfig, netstat, port forward, and route. The system commands, clear rev, execute, get PID, get UID, kill, pkill, PS, reboot, shell, shutdown, and sysinfo. Now, if you made it this far, you're pretty much familiar with most of these commands. They are Linux commands. And we have other commands: idle times, key scan dump, key scan start, key scan stop, screen share, screenshot, record mic, webcam chat, webcam list, webcam snap, webcam stream, get system, and hash dump. Although all these commands may seem available under the help menu, they may all not work. For example, the target system might not have a webcam, or it can be running on a virtual machine without a proper desktop environment. And this completes our task. Task 4. Post-exploitation with Meterpreter. Meterpreter provides you with many useful commands that facilitate the post-exploitation phase. Below are a few examples you will often use. Help. This command will give you a list of all available commands in Meterpreter. As we have seen earlier, Meterpreter has many versions, and each version may have different options available. Type in help once you have a Meterpreter session will help you quickly browse through the available commands. And as we've seen before, this is our help output. Meterpreter commands. The get UID command will display the users with which Meterpreter is currently running. This will give you an idea of your possible privilege level on the target system. Example, are you an admin level user like NT authority system, or a regular user? And we see here, we have the NT authority system user when we run the get UID. The PS command will list running processes. The PID column will give you the PID information. You will need to migrate Meterpreter to another process. So we ran the PS command. The PID information is here, the name, the user, and the path. Migrate. Migrating to another process will help Meterpreter interact with it. For example, if you see a word processor running on the target, example word executable, notepad executable, etc., you can migrate to it and start capturing keystrokes sent by the users to this process. The Meterpreter versions will offer you the key scan start, key scan stop, and key scan dump command options to make Meterpreter act like a keylogger. Migrating to another process may also help you to have a more stable Meterpreter session. To migrate to any process, you need to type the migrate command followed by the PID of the desired target process. The example below shows Meterpreter migrating to process ID 716, as we see here. Be careful, you may lose your user's privilege if you migrate from a higher privilege, example system, user, to a process started by a lower privileged user, example web server. You may not be able to gain them back. Let's go over hash dump. The hash dump command will list the contents of the SAM database. The SAM Security Account Manager database stores user passwords on Windows systems. These passwords are stored in the NTLM, which is the new Technology LAN Manager format. And right here, we have an example. While it is not mathematically possible to crack these hashes, you will still discover the clear text password using the online NTLM database or a rainbow table attack. These hashes can also be used in the pass the hash attack to authenticate to other systems that these users can access the same network. Search. The search command is useful to locate files with potentially juicy information. In a CTF context, this can be used to quickly find a flag or proof file, while in actual penetration testing engagement, you may need to search for user-generated files or configuration files that may contain password or account information. And let's look at shell. The shell command will launch a regular command line shell on the target system, and pressing Ctrl+C will help you go back to the Meterpreter shell, as we see here, and then they initiated the Ctrl+Z to get back to the C drive. And this completes this task. Task 5. Post-Exploitation Challenge. Meterpreter provides several important post-exploitation tools. Commands mentioned previously, such as getSystem and hashdump, will provide important leverage and information for privilege escalation and lateral movement. Meterpreter is also a good base you can use to run post-exploitation modules available on the Metasploit framework. Finally, you can also use the load command to leverage additional tools such as Kiwi or even the whole Python language. The post-exploitation phase will have several goals. Meterpreter has functions that can assist all of them. Gathering further information about the target system, looking for interesting files, user credentials, additional network interface, and generally interesting information on the target system, privilege escalation, and finally, lateral movement. Once any additional tool is loaded using the load command, you will see new options on the help menu. The example below shows commands added for the Kiwi module using the load Kiwi command. We see here we have load Kiwi, the extension is loading, and finally success. These will change according to the loaded menu, so running the help command after loading a module is always a good idea. And here we have the commands and the descriptions from the help. The questions below will help you have a better understanding of how Meterpreter can be used in a post-exploitation. You can use the credentials below to simulate an initial compromise over SMB server message block using exploit window SMB PSEXEC. So you see we have the username ballin and the password is password1. So for our first question is, what is the computer name? So to do this, we have a terminal here open. First thing we want to do is launch MSF console. And we'll give it a minute so it could do its thing. And once you have Metasploit deployed, we'll go back. We're looking for the computer name, and it gives us a hint here. Use the sysinfo command. So if we type sysinfo from here, it is unknown. It needs to be within Meterpreter. So we'll do a search. If you see here, there was you can use the credentials below to simulate an initial compromise over SMB. And this is what we want to use. SMB server message block using exploit Windows SMB PSEXEC. So let's search for that. So we'll do a search exploit Windows SMB PSEXEC. And you see here, Microsoft Windows Authenticated User Code Execution. So that's what we want to use. So that's number 0. Use 0. And we have Windows SMB PSEX. So let's do a show options. And you see here our show options. We want to focus on SMB user, SMB pass, and also our host, which is the target. So let's set the target first. And how we do that is we set our HOSTS. And my target IP is 10.10.119.116. 10.10.119.116. Confirm that. 10.10.119.119.116. 10.10.6. So go ahead and set that as the R host. Now let's go with let's set SMB. Let's use user first. And we know our user, it's Ballin, BALLEN. That is set. Now let's do set SMB pass, and it's capital P password 1, capital P password 1, and let's give this a run. Okay, now you see we're on Meterpreter, and from the hint they want us to use the sysinfo command, which was described in more details in the beginning of this curriculum. So the sysinfo, and we have a computer name here, Acme Test. So what is the computer name? Acme Test. What is the target domain? The target domain here is Flash. So you input Flash. So with the sysinfo, we're able to get these two questions, Acme Test and the target domain Flash. It gives us a system language. We can see it's running x64 as the architecture, and logged on user 7 on our target system. Now we go to what is the name of the share likely created by the user, and it says use the post window gather enum share module. You will need to background Meterpreter first and set the session parameter. And how we do that is, let's have this run on the background, which would be Control Z, and yes. Now it appears to be running on the background because it brought us back to MS5 exploit. Let's check our sessions. We have one session running on the background. Okay, so it wants us to use this enum shares module. So let's search for that. Search, and we do enum. You could also input the whole path. I'm just gonna go with enum shares, and it appears here, post windows gather enum shares. Post windows gather enum shares. Post windows gather enum shares. So let's use 0. Now we have that module running. Let's do a show options. And we want to focus on session, the session to run this module on. So we have session 1 here on the background. So we'll use 0. Well, first let's set the session. And the way we set the session is we use the set session ION 1. That is set. Now let's see what happens when we run. Okay, so we're running against session 1. The following shares were found. So we have sysvalve, net logon, and speed tester. And this looks like something that a user would input. So the question was, what is the name of the share likely created by the user? And speedster is your answer. Okay, so now we'll do what is the NTLM hash of the J chamber user. And I did this by, I open up this session, a PS session for process. And if we look at the hint here, is telling us in the Meterpreter prompt, you will need to migrate to the lsass.exe process first. PS will list its PID, then run hash dump. So we did the process PS, and here we see it's 772. So we're gonna migrate to that. I already did it, but we'll do it again. See if it takes it. 772. And that process is already running since I already did it. So after that, you just want to do a hash dump. And we see we have J chambers here. And this is our hash. So if you copy that, paste it here, that is your answer. Now what is the clear text password of the J chambers user? So we look at the hint. You can use an online hash checker like crackstation.net. So since we have it here, let's just grab the hash. We'll copy it. We have crackstation here. Let's paste. I'm not a robot. Crack hashes. And we have the result of trust no one. We'll copy that. Trust no one. Paste it. I added other characters, so make sure. And that is the answer. Where is the secret text file located? And this one should be simple. So what we want to do is go back here. Let's search for that file. So we do the -F option for files. Secrets.txt. And this might take a while, so we're gonna pause and come back. So the search results took a few minutes, and we see here we found one, and we found a path here. So it's looking for the location. So we start from here. Just copy the path. Copy. Okay, I didn't like something. Okay, let's pause this because that is the path. There's the secret file located. So it's in the C drive. Program files x86. Okay, I'm guessing it just wants the path itself. There we go. So just ensure you remove this right here, because that's where the file is located. So they're specifically just asking for the path. What is the Twitter password revealed in the secret text file? Okay, so I've done this in the past. We should be able to cat to it to read out the contents. And we'll grab the path, but we just have to ensure that we have citations, quotes. So we'll copy it. Let's see if we can get in the middle there. That looks good. And excellent. So it says my Twitter password is, and this is our password. So let's copy this. Paste it as a plain text. And that is correct. Where is the real secret text file located? Okay, so to do this, we'll just go again and run a search. -F option for the file. And the file we're looking for, it's real secret.txt. Now you remember this is going to take a few minutes, so we'll pause and come back once we have the file. And we have our results. We found one result, and again, they just want the path. So let's copy the path. This is where it's located, and that answer is correct. And what is the real secret? So we'll go again and cat to it. Remember to put your quotes, and this time we'll take the path and the file. Copy that, paste that right in between. Paste there, let's go back. That looks good. And the Flash is the fastest man alive. Meterpreter. Okay. So let's just take all this. Not like before. There's a password. What is the real secret? The Flash is the fastest man alive. And that concludes our session of Metasploit Meterpreter. Thank you for watching.